At narito naman ang mainit na balita mula sa mundo ng politika. Isang controversial na balita ang lumabas ngayon. Si President Kuting ng Norte Jr. ay nahaharap sa posibleng pagkakakulong dahil sa paggamit ng iligal na droga. Ang balitang ito ay nagbigay diin sa mga isyu ng pananagutan ng mga leader sa ating bansa. Ayon sa mga ulat, ang mga otoridad ay may hawak na ebidensya laban kay Pbbm na nag-uugnay sa kanyang paggamit ng mga pinagbabawal na substansya. Sa isang press conference, sinabi ng mga opisyal na may mga testimonya mula sa mga testigo na nagpapatunay sa kanilang aligasyon. Ang mga detalye tungkol dito ay patuloy pang ine-eksplora ng mga ahensya ng gobyerno. Hindi lamang si President Kuting ng Norte Jr. ang sangkot sa isyong to, ilan pang kilalang politiko ang nalink sa parehong kaso, kabilang ng mga mambabatas at lokal na opisyal. Ayon sa mga impormasyon, ng mga taong ito ay bahagi ng isang mas malawak na network na kumikilos sa ilalim ng radar ng mga otoridad. Sa kabilang banda, ang mga tagusuporta ng Pbbm ay agad na nagtanggol sa kanya. Sinasabing ito ay isang atake sa kanyang administrasyon. Sa isang pahayag, binanggit nila na ang mga akusasyon ay walang batayan at maaaring ginagamit lamang bilang pampulitikang armas ng mga kalaban nito. Ang balitang ito ay nagdulot ng pagkakabahala sa mga mamamayan. Maraming Pilipino ang umaasang ang mga kasong ito ay mapapabilis ang proseso ng investigasyon at hindi ito may uuwi sa mas matagal na pagdinig. Ayon sa mga eksperto, ang isyong ito ay makakaapekto sa kredibilidad ng administrasyon at maaaring magdulot ng mas malawak na ekspekto sa mga darating na eleksyon. Patuloy ang ating pagbabantay sa pag-unlad ng kasong ito at ang magiging aksyon ng mga otoridad. Ang buong bansa ay nagmamasid at umaasang makakamit ang katarungan. At heto nga mga balitang ating pagkakatutukan, at kung bago ka pa lamang sa aking channel, ay huwag kakalimutang mag-like, share and subscribe para updated ka sa aming mga bagong balita dito sa Tatak Pinas.
Hayaan mo lang yan, ganyan lang talaga yan. Parang ako, ha? Diba, parang, I think 3 years pa lang kami nun. Tapos ever since then, I don't want to be around him. Kasi parang sabi ko, one way or another, baka may mangyari, tapos wala lang din. You know, ano ko parang nakaka-trauma yun, diba? In my part. So, nakakalungkot kasi parang the reason why, again, nagsasalita ako now is because like, if you're, you know, this is our country. Tapos kung inaano tayo, napapaligiran tayo ng mga leader na ganyan, ng mga pag-uugali. Parang ang hirap. Kaya look at what's happening now. 'Di ba? Parang, so hindi mo gusto, eto gagawin natin. Hindi mo gusto, o sige, bubulihin natin, harasin natin. Ganyan talaga sila. They did it to me. Pinapasundan ako, 'di ba? Papupuntahan ako. You know, hindi lang nila ako talaga na ano masyado. Kasi sabi ko, hindi ako, pag ako, may nangyari sa akin, sabay-sabay tayong babagsak. Sinabi ko talaga yon, sisiguraduhin ko yan. You know, I'll make sure lahat kayo. Kasi lahat yan may hangganan.
Nako! Pag may mangyayari daw sa kanya, sabay-sabay tayong babagsak. Ma'am, ibagsak mo na! Ma'am, huwag mo naman pabutin to ng 2025, ma'am. Baka pwede. Hanggang September lang, bagsak na natin to ni ma'am. Rinig nyo? Sabay-sabay tayong babagsak. Volts in! Voltis 5. Siguro si Kukak ngayon lasing na. Kasi magtitrip man yan sila. Mag-inuman man yan, pupulboron. Tapos magwa-wild man si Kukak, Black Eyes na Junior. Trending
Kung sa tingin nyo ngayon, may power kayo, lahat yan may limitation. 'Di ba? Alam mo yun, ang Diyos lang ang pinaka-powerful
kapangyarihan.
dito. Oo. So, pag siya na mismo yan, wala kayong magagawa.
Doon ba sa restaurant na yon na hinaras ka ni Lagdameo, then yung iyong ex-partner, sabi niya sa'yo, hayaan mo lang, nandoon ba si Marcos Jr.?
Hindi, wala siya nun.
Wala siya doon.
that time.
Wala siya doon. Okay.
Oo.
So, kailan yung, di ba, yung una yung meeting doon sa bahay na sa Forbes Park? So, yung sumunod saan?
Matagal. Bahay din.
Saan bahay?
Bahay din ng common friend. Yung parang
Ng isang-
sa grupo rin nila. O,
Ang
isang
grupo-
kaibigan.
mga kaklase din nila sa Pulburon.
Yes, oo. Mga
Okay,
kaklase.
so-
Kasi most of the time, in fairness, parang ako lang ang nadadalang babae. So,
Ikaw lang.
minsan. Pero minsan din, marami din. Iba. Pero pag ganon, parang, pag marami kasi, parang minsan si Tony Boy ayaw niya. So, hindi kami nagtatagal. So, yun.
So, hindi mo ba nakasama yung asawa ni Lagdameo sa isang mga event?
Doon sulita.
Never.
Solo niya?
Never.
Okay. So, yung sumunod
Never.
yung sumunod mong nakita si Marcos Jr. dun sa isang bahay na yon, naalala mo pa kung ano yung okasyon? Or, I mean, kung sino-sino yung mga
Usually,
tao?
Oo naman. Kasi kokonti lang naman yung nila, yung cycle nila
Grupo
if they're
nila.
doing it. Oo. If they're
Sila
doing it.
lang. Okay.
Sila lang. Oo.
So, ano yun? Yung second time around, ano yung kasyon? Nagpulburon din si Marcos Jr.? Nagpulburon pa rin?
That time, parang hindi ko yun nakita. Pero alam ko they're doing it. Kasi nga everybody's there. Alam mo yun, eh. Diba? Siyempre si Tony ba nagkikwento rin sa akin. Alam mo yun?
Okay.
Tapos kasi, because of that, tas konti lang talaga. Very kasi in fairness, very, alam mo, si Mr. President, yung tinanong ko nga, yung first time ko siyang na-meet, sabi ko sa kanya, sabi ko pa kay Tata, hindi siya people person, no? Sabi, kasi parang, siya,
Ayan, stop muna natin ha. Pag magorgor tayo, the end. Gorgor na naman. Guys, ganito, sinabi naman niya na talagang nagpulburon si Junior. Kukuminto sana ako. Kaso nga lang, baka gurgurin tayo. I-play ko muna hanggang sa matapos. Sa dulo na ako mag-comment.
chap. Look
Parang-
siya.
Puta, ayan, bumalik. Oh. Sipin mo. Ayan, bumalik ah. Oh, ikot-ikot. Ayan, bumalik. Kailan guys. Oh, sa mga nandito pa guys, i-play ko lang hanggang dulo. Ano guys?
Di ba parang one time pa, nabalya pa ako ni lang kung ano yung na-experience ko.
Yes. Kasi yun ang gusto natin
Bihira.
sa taong bayan, yung circumstances
Konti na lang, patapos lang natin.
i-witness mo. Kasi ang daming circumstantial evidence.
Yeah.
Andyan si Nikki Coseteng, na napaka-powerful ng statement, pero hindi kinakasuhan. Andyan si Pangulong Duterte. Nandyan si Agent Morales na nag-testify sa PDM. Nandyan dyan yung aking pinakitang pulburon video. Ang gusto ko kasing ipakita sa taong bayan, kasi ikaw, you belong to the circle. Ang ex-partner mo, yung kasama nila sa pulburon
Yeah.
activity nila.
Yeah.
So you are very credible. Kaya tinatanong kita na sa mga pagkakataong 'yon, yung mga pagkakataong 'yon, like doon ba sa instances na 'yon, hindi mo man siya nakita na sumisinghot, pero alam mo sa sarili mo na they're doing something inside the
Of course.
room or okay.
Of course they do. Kasi parang, di ba, minsan nga, kasi may ganito yan. Kapag if you're doing it, paglasing ka na or like you're into it, super, lakas ng tama mo, sorry, I'm burping. Ang nangyayari, minsan may naiwan na residue.
Sa bibig.
Oo, dito, sa nose, minsan may naiwan dyan. Mga ganon.
Sino nakita mong nang may naiwan na residue?
Madalas, lahat naman sila. Based on my experience.
O kasama si Ngagba. Animal. Ay, pasubscribe nga kayo sa Bisdakang Pilipinas. Ngagba nga. O ito. Sabay-sabay na natin. Baka gurgur na naman.
Diba? So parang, oo. So,
Kaya titignan mo
ganun
na.
yun.
Merong residue na naiwan kay Marcos Jr. na nagba-viral. Na sa isang
Oh,
parang ceremony
okay.
na alala mo.
Yeah.
Meron ditong puti na pulbo,
Mm.
tapos inabutan siya ng panyo nung, ng kanyang PSG. Nakita mo yon? So inabutan siya ng
Hindi.
panyo ganyan. Hanapin
Hindi
mo
ko pa
yon,
nakita.
mga kababayan. So merong residue dito ha. Tapos inabutan
Okay.
siya ng panyo nung PSG niya.
PSG.
Tapos ginanon niya sa public.
Oh,
So,
hindi ko
ito bang
nakita yun.
residue? So, ikaw, kasi ako wala pa, never ko ako
Hindi ko pa
nakakita.
nakita. Mm.
Yun ang hanapin ko, send ko sa'yo mamaya. So, ako wala pa ako nakitang pulburon sa buong buhay ko, kahit anong klaseng pulburon. Yung tunay na pulburon
Yeah.
na masarap, nakakita ako nun. So, yung sinasabi mong residue, pwede mo bang i-explain? Parang ano siya? Parang siyang crystallized? Ano yung dating pag nasa skin siya na
Alam mo
nakikita dito?
Talcum powder. Basically, powder
parang pulbo.
talaga.
Okay.
Oo, powder talaga siya. So, ganun yun. Even yung texture niya, ganun. Very, very fine. Kasi makakita ka ng Johnson's baby powder, di ba? May plug ko.
May
Ay,
plug.
Johnson's.
Kaya, so, parang ganon talaga.
Oo.
Oh my God.
Talagang, ganun siya. So, yun. At saka, ang
Sungag ba talaga? Kasi may naiiwan daw dito eh. Hayok na hayok, no? Yung sobrang ngagba na, hindi na tinitingnan po tayo, may naiiwan para mga pulbos dito. Tapos sasayaw sila, BBM, bot. Ako, mag-iingat ho kayo tuloy.
Polvoron. They need to take it every 30 minutes eh. Kasi di ba parang maano yan, mabilis mawala. Sabi nga nila parang cleanest drugs siya. Pinakamalinis na droga.
Hindi ko
So,
alam
alam
yun.
mo.
So, every 30 minutes,
Parang,
Oh,
yun yung ano nila, 30 minutes,
So-
1 hour.
so parang
Nagda-down.
they-
Especially if you're drinking daw, para hindi ka malasing.
Google nga natin, aralin natin.
That's what I know.
Meaning,
Every 30 minutes, so pag hair follicle drug test ni Dayon, you're positive talaga. Dapat manawagan na tayo. First family lahat sila, hair follicle drug test. Ito na yun,
meaning, kung yan ay tama, based on the scientific evidence yung dinidiscuss natin mo ngayon, ang nakikita ko dito, kaya sila nagtitake ng every 30 minutes para magstay yung amats, yung effect ng pulburon.
Yung ako, kasi di ba I don't do it nga. So parang sabi ko, ano bang ano niyan? Di ba? Parang, bakit gustong-gusto niyo yan? Sabi niya kasi, pag nalalasing sila, nawawala yung tama. So they can drink more. So yun yung yun yung effect na yun yung alam ko. Pero yung yung after effect ang masama.
Ano yung
the
masamang
next day,
after effect? Ano yung ginagawa nila usually?
ang init ng ang init ng ulo. Oo, tapos physical. Yun, nananakit.
So you
Basta-
are physically abused?
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh my
I am.
God.
Na ano rin ako, tinago ko lang. Kasi syempre pag mahal mo, di ba, parang di mo man sisiraan. Hindi ko naman siya sinisiraan eh. I'm just telling the truth. Kasi this is the side effect. This is what's happening. Di ba? Ayun.
Hay, natapos din. Kaya pala yung nang-agaw si Kukak ba ng baso kay Kiso. Kay Kiso di Bula. Grabe pala, trip talaga yun, alak. Isipin mo every 30 minutes. Every 30 minutes ka magpupulburon kasi mawawala na naman yung visa. Putang ina naman. Anyway, bahala na, magusga ang taong bayan. Ang komento ko dito, ayos naman yung sinasabi niya, lehitimo naman, wala naman binabasa, tuloy-tuloy naman yung pananalita, hindi naman autal gaya ni Dayunyor. Hayaan na natin ang taong bayan magusga sa pasabog ni Maharlika. Buhay ang kapalit, meron naman daw siyang USB na 150, pinakalat, alam na po niya yan at handa na daw siya at kinonsulta niya ang kanyang pamilya yung pagsiwalat niya dito. Ano pa kaya ang inihintay ng taong bayan, no? Ang dami ng mga tao nagsasabi ng ngagba yung nasa palasyo. Hanggang kailan ang pagtitiis nating lahat. Dahil hindi maganda na merong isang panggulo ng Republika ng Pilipinas na may issue sa pulburon. Ngayon, nahatak pa kasama si Kukak. Nako. Voltage 5 na, volts and high voltage. Sabi ni yung RSNTCB, high voltage. Anyway, maraming salamat po. Thank you so much sa lahat na itawid natin. Good luck sa inyo, Miss Cathy Abinag, Miss Maharlika. Basta kami, dito sa Bisdak Pilipinas, susuporta po kami sa mga expose ninyo. Mag-ingat po kayo. Pagpalain tayo ng may kapal. Sana maraming mga Pilipino magising. Ano pa ba ang hinihintay natin? Good luck na lang sa Pilipinas nating mahal. Dagang salamat. Mabuhay po tayong mga Pilipino. See you po bukas.
Mr. Chair, good afternoon everyone. From the Department of Transportation, we have Assistant Secretary Julio Ciano.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, sirs, madam.
From the National Intelligence Coordinating Agency, we have Director Maria Luisa de Guzman.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair.
He is with Attorney Albi Juarez and Mr. John Benedict Villa. From the Philippine Coast Guard, we have Coast Guard Captain Donet A. Dulina.
Good morning,
Good
sir.
afternoon, Mr. Chair, sirs, ma'am. From the Department of Justice, we have Attorney Freddy Ganchoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, colleagues, and everyone.
From the University of the Philippines Institute for Maritime Affairs and Law of the Sea, we have Attorney J. Batong Bakal.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon to everyone else as well.
For the record, also, Mr. Chairman, attending virtually via Zoom is Ambassador Teodoro Locsin Jr. And we have confirmation that Professor Robert Charles Beckman will likewise be attending virtually. That is all, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon.
Thank you. For the information of the resource persons present here and the members of the committee, during the last hearing, I understand that we got two commitments, delayed commitments from the Department of Justice and the National Security Council as to the water to land ratio, and then from the Department of Justice, I think it has something to do with Indonesia. Yes. So, are both agencies signifying their intent, is very leading, to have an executive session, or are you all right with having a session, a hearing similar to the hearing we conducted last time? Is there any matters of national interest that would be triggered here? Indonesian matters? Wala naman siguro.
No, Mr. Chair, we have already submitted their position paper.
What about the National Security Council?
We already submitted the requirements,
Okay,
Mr. Chair.
so we'll be asking you to amplify the submissions made, but would like to take this opportunity to we have in our midst virtually the presence of Ambassador Locsin. Ambassador Locsin, I have some direct questions unless you have an introductory statement. You know for a fact that we're having a hearing relative to several measures that would call 5 measures that would call for the establishment of a Philippine archipelagic sea lanes. And we purposely sought your attendance today because we understand that you are based near the International Maritime Office in London, and we have to get your inputs. But first, we have to know our current standing as regards the IMO. So, are you familiar, Your Honor, with what has been discussed thus far? We have conducted several hearings, or do you have a prepared statement relative to the archipelagic sea lanes, the pending bills before this committee? Secretary Locsin,
Yes,
you have the floor, and you have
Yes,
our undivided attention.
yes. I have a prepared statement which embodies answers also to your specific concerns.
If I may be allowed to proceed, Your Honor.
Please proceed. And can you indicate the specific time you have there right now?
5-5.
5:05. This is fine. This is what time we were.
5:05 a.m.
Yes.
I am really sorry.
No.
It's 5:05 a.m. You're inside the premises of the Philippine Embassy in London.
Yes, sir.
So you're on Philippine soil.
That's right.
Please proceed, Your
Thank
Honor.
you very much. Honorable Senator Francis Tolentino, Chair of the Special Committee on Philippine Admiralty and Maritime Zones, honorable members of the committee, colleagues, and distinguished guests, good afternoon to you. Good afternoon. Thank you for inviting us to attend this public hearing on the establishment of the Archipelagic Sea Lanes. I welcome the opportunity to discuss the proposed Archipelagic Sea Lanes Bill and the process of designation of sea lanes under the International Maritime Organization. We are already familiar with the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. You may note that Part 4 of the Convention provides us with a legal regime for the designation of archipelagic sea lanes. Article 53(9) of UNCLOS states that in designating or substituting sea lanes or prescribing or substituting traffic separation schemes, an archipelagic state shall refer proposals to the competent international organization with a view to their adoption. It seems, therefore, that the competent international organization may adopt only such sea lanes or traffic separation schemes as may be agreed with the archipelagic state, after which the archipelagic state may designate, prescribe, or substitute them. It seems from the wording that the archipelagic state has first and last word. The wording confines the competent international organization to the proposals that the archipelagic state initiates or accepts or substitutes something else for altogether. The initiative is ours. No other country than ours should initiate ASLs in our waters. On the other hand, what if they do? Then it is best we beat them to a submission. Great powers tend to have their way with international organizations. The competent international authority retains the authority to adopt the proposals or not. That does not derogate one whit from the sovereignty of the submitting state. What it does is allow, indeed encourage, other states to participate so that all currently conceivable international navigation needs are met. While UNCLOS does not set out the competent international organization in Article 53(9), it is widely agreed that the competent international organization being referred to here is the IMO. In 1996, the UN Division for Ocean Affairs and Law of the Sea published a list of competent international organizations to handle certain issues set out in UNCLOS. IMO was recognized as the competent international organization that adopts archipelagic sea lanes proposals in accordance with the relevant provisions of Article 53(9) of UNCLOS. The Philippines is a party to the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea and a member of IMO. Thus, we are obliged to refer our ASL proposal to the IMO. The compelling character of UNCLOS, if I may say as an aside, is best shown by Chinese actions in our waters under UNCLOS. China is proud to have spearheaded the adoption of UNCLOS, along with the US, which dropped out at the end, though its inputs had already been made. And yet, maritime features that UNCLOS clearly accords the Philippines is claimed by the People's Republic of China. So there you have the binding nature of international commitments if it costs the strong little or nothing. Yet such commitments are better than nothing. The strong will do as they please, the weak will endure what they must. Meetings in the IMO, like in the UN, are year-round. Unlike the UN, however, the IMO is a technical agency that has limited human resources. The IMO Secretariat, which has its hands full with goal-based standards, autonomous vessels, piracy and armed robbery against ships, cybersecurity and e-navigation, is the same one that will also handle our archipelagic sea lanes submission. Given the technical nature of the meetings and the wide array of technical issues, that affect international shipping. Most IMO committee and subcommittee meetings are held only once a year. The Subcommittee on Navigation, Communication, and Search and Rescue, for instance, where the submission and technical details of the proposed ASL will be discussed, is scheduled to have its meeting this June. Documents must be submitted 6 months before the meeting to give time for both the Secretariat and all delegations to study these thoroughly. In the case of the proposed Philippine designation of ASLs, it is also presumed that the International Civil Aviation Organization will have been advised and consulted about it. While we submit proposals for designation of ASLs to the IMO, it cannot, no more than other international organizations, involve itself in domestic matters, let alone drafting of domestic legislation. The most that it can do is assist in checking whether the ASL proposal is compliant with technical requirements of the IMO subcommittee where it will be lodged. When some of us were in Congress, the U.S. Treasury intervened when we were enacting our anti-money laundering law. We had failed to adopt one earlier on the advice of the U.S. Secretary of the Treasury, Robert Rubin, who believed that regulating currency went against the spirit of free enterprise. But 9/11 changed all that. In this regard, I recommend that when there is already a final version of the bill, you may consider holding a seminar workshop on the proposed designation of ASLs. Interested member states, relevant agencies, and stakeholders, as well as an IMO representative, may be invited as participants. I would urge that. There is no substitute for hands-on experience in these matters. This is what Indonesia did prior to submitting its ASL proposal to the IMO. We need, however, to manage our expectations by stressing the discussion of the Philippine designation of ASLs will likely require more than one NCSR session. Given that subcommittee meetings are only held once a year, this means that the entire process of having our proposed designation of ASLs adopted at the IMO will require some time. I recall that in one of the meetings of DFA MOAU headed by then Assistant Secretary, now Ambassador to Kuala Lumpur, Angela Ponce, with IMO officials here in London last year, IMO was asked why no other archipelagic state apart from Indonesia has submitted designation of its ASLs to the IMO. The IMO officials opined that maybe other member states might see no benefit in designating ASLs. They added that there is also the disadvantage of dealing with too much bureaucracy in working on the designation of the sea lanes, both at the domestic front and at the IMO. They mentioned that the IMO Secretariat does not deal very often with these kinds of submissions and would need sufficient time to study the comment on any initial Philippine submissions. They even asked what the main goal of the Philippines is in designating ASLs. If it is just to monitor and manage sea traffic, they said there are other alternative options such as setting ship routing measures or traffic separation schemes instead of designating ASLs. I would have answered, only Indonesia and now the Philippines have submitted ASLs, but that is because we are the only two serious archipelagos on the planet. Name another one. As sprawling archipelagos, we are most vulnerable in this particular aspect. Our major islands are the sizes of many countries. The waterways between them offer wide approaches. We can be taken piecemeal. At this point, let me add that our ASLs must include normal passage routes for international navigation and overflight, and of course, innocent passage. We shall be required to show sufficient capability to put in place mechanisms that enhance maritime safety and give convincing proof that our proposals will enhance the positive impact of orderly vessel traffic on the marine environment, fisheries resources, and fishing grounds. But this is good, because we should be pouring resources into addressing those concerns anyway, and we have the President who believes in it. As I earlier stressed, we need to manage our expectations. The entire process of having our proposed designations of ASLs adopted at the IMO will not be quick, quite the contrary. But this should not discourage Congress from starting, as it has with several bills and passing an ASL 1. Indeed, we encourage the early crafting and formal submission. If there is a felt need for ASLs, there is no time like the present to start the process. I note that the proposed bills empower the President to designate ASLs. Should there be need for technical adjustments to comply with the requirements of IMO, these can be easily done without need of returning to Congress for amendments. After initial slow going, things could come to a resolution as quick as international bureaucracies are known for. It took a while to adjust our maritime boundaries with Indonesia, but 2 decades later, Indonesian Foreign Minister and I were at the UN signing off on them. So whether the IMO can overrule domestic laws, let me just say that the legislated designation of ASLs is an exercise of sovereignty by the member state. True, by submitting this designation of ASLs to the IMO, we open ourselves to the possibility that other member states will negotiate for the inclusion of other routes used for navigation that may not have been included in the original submission. That is the whole point of submitting our designation, to get the views of affected states and achieve as wide a consensus as possible. The case of Indonesia, for instance, Indonesia submitted the first and only proposal for the designation of 3 archipelagic sea lanes within its archipelago to the IMO. There was a disappointing outcome. The proposal only accounted for the designation of 3 north-south routes through the archipelago. There was no east-west corridor proposed. Both the United States and the Australian representatives considered this unacceptable, since the proposal did not meet the all routes normally used for international navigation by maritime traffic as required by UNCLOS. It seems the 2 Western powers encourage comprehensive ASLs and not exclude normal routes. After much debate, the IMO declared Indonesia's submission a partial submission of ASLs. There is a view that this declaration renders the Indonesian ASLs practically useless because there is no compulsion for maritime countries to use them. Failure to get approval seems to impart a shade of rejection by the international body, but I do not believe there is any practical or legal effect. On the one hand, what objections or alternatives are offered regarding our submissions will reveal the genuine concerns of the affected countries about their legitimate interests on the matter which we may have overlooked. On the other hand, it will reveal the real intentions. Know your friends who claim to have your back, because there lies the risk. Frontal enemies are easier to protect against. So I encourage our submission to the IMO. That it will entail a lot of work and time to produce the desired result only shows the need to do it sooner rather than late. After all, during my term as Secretary of Foreign Affairs, the DFA initiated in 2020 the designation of ASLs at the IMO by submitting a paper proposal. We therefore await the instructions of the Senate, which alone shares with the executive the power of making foreign policy. I hope we have provided useful information to the committee as regards the IMO process in the designation of archipelagic sea lanes. Before I end my address, some specific questions. What is the relationship between the Philippines and the IMO? Alongside the other member states, we and other member states constitute the IMO, on top of which we were re-elected to the IMO Council by the largest number of votes ever. This is a testament to the solid foundation laid by my predecessor, His Excellency Antonio Lagdameo, now at the UN, who made many friends in his watch, and by his able team led by Senen Mangalile, the go-to guy if you want anything done well and fast. My team, led by Ann Hernando, were able to build a yet bigger base of support on that firm foundation of friendship. We are a member in good standing, in good, if not superlative standing, at the IMO. The current Philippine ambassador to the United Kingdom is the permanent representative of the Philippines in the IMO. No other official can assume that role. We never fail to attend IMO meetings. When is the best time to make a submission, before or after the passage of the bill? For a while, I thought there is a downside to submitting already legislated submission with the risk of rejection. But so far as I can gather, there is no rejection. There is just no adoption. At worst, a partial submission is approved. There will certainly